Temperature. Temperature measure of hotness or coldness of an object or substance with reference to some standard value. There are two common temperature scales. On the Fahrenheit scale, water freezes at 32 degrees and boils at 212 degrees. The Celsius scale divides the interval between the freezing and boiling points of water into 100 degrees. Meteorologists, scientists who study weather report. Adiabatic loss rate, the temperature of dry air drops by 1.0 Celsius for 100-meter rise in altitude. What temperature really is? Atoms are in constant motion even in a solid object. The back and forth jingling of atoms is caused by thermal energy, which is a kind of kinetic energy. What temperature really is? Temperature measures the kinetic energy per molecule due to random motion. Some digital thermometers sense temperature by measuring the resistance of electronics passing through wire. Effects of temperature. All chemical, physiological, and biological processes in plants are affected by temperature. Plants have different responses to temperature, but biological activities are within 0 degree to 50 degrees Celsius, the lowered limit being the freezing point of water and the upper point of the thermal dense saturation of proteins. The temperature response for most biological processes reflects the temperature dependence of the enzymatic of other chemical reaction involved. The temperature response curve is characterized by three cardinal temperatures. The minimum temperature, below which a process will not take place. The maximum temperature, above which process will not take place. The optimum temperature, at which a process will proceed with greatest rapidity. Thus, there is a range of temperature below the maximum over which the rate of the process is stimulated with increasing temperature and range. Beyond the optimum, over which the rate declines. This response is true with the chemical reactions such as photosynthesis and respiration. With developmental processes such as germination and with plant growth. Effect on the rate of chemical reaction. Between the minimum temperature and the maximum temperature, chemical reaction in plants become faster as temperature increases. Thus, any biological process such as seed filling and senescence is faster at high temperature.
First of all, let's tackle about light and how it is important in our plants. First, what is the relationship between light and the plants? Light is an essential factor in maintaining plants. The rate of growth and length of the time a plant remains active is dependent on the amount of light it receives. Light energy is used to photosynthesis, the plant's most basic metabolic process. Next is what are the importance of light to a plants. Light is one of the most important factors for growing houseplants. All plants require light for photosynthesis, the process within a plant that converts light, oxygen, and water into carbohydrates or energy. Plants require this energy in order to grow, bloom, and produce seed. And the last is, how does light make plants grow? Light directly influences plants' growth and flowering by inducing photosynthesis and feeding plants energy. Plants are dependent on light to generate food, induce the growing cycle, and allow for healthy development. Light or irradiance. Under natural conditions, the process of photosynthesis is driven by the visible portion of the spectrum or radiant energy between 400 and 700 nanometer wavelength. Photosynthetic rate is partially a function of the level of irradiance. In total darkness, no photosynthesis occurs, and as irradiance increases, photosynthesis increases until the light comprehension point is reached, where photosynthetic fixation of carbon dioxide exactly equals the respiratory release of carbon dioxide. There is no net movement of carbon dioxide into or out of the leaf, or net photosynthesis equals to zero. As irradiance further increases, net photosynthesis or gross photosynthetic carbon dioxide fixation minus respiration increases rapidly until the light saturation level is reached, at which point the photosynthetic rate levels off. These are the following units or expressions of photosynthesis and irradiance. Light intensity varies with the season. For instance, in Los Baños, Laguna, the light intensity during the wet and dry seasons are. This means that there is a doubling of the available light during summer and explains why light is often a limiting factor to high yields during the wet season. This figure shows the marked difference in light response curves of C3 and C4 plants.
Thank you for listening.